Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me, rather, a former guest and also now current guest. Was originally at the time when I interviewed, I think you were at St. Paul, Coach, but now you're with the CREC Colts, not to be confused with the Indy Colts in the NFL, but still very cool. And Coach, you've gotten your program off to a 5-2 start after last year being 1-9. Congratulations to you, but I know as you from the past when we've spoken, it's process. Keep going. Can't rest on our laurels now.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me. I had a blast last time, and every time we talk, it's enjoyable. So I appreciate you having me. Yeah, we're excited about how things are going for the Colts.
Mhm.
We say every day it's a great day to be a Craig Colt, and it certainly has been this season. But you're absolutely right. Coming from the school that I come from, we've got to keep doing the things every day that kind of put us in this position. So that's the focus right now.
Now, before we go further with your program, I just want to ask because obviously you have NVL ties because of your times with St. Paul and such, and obviously when Jude was there and all that. Have you been following what's been going on in the Valley? Because it's been crazy because it's not
It,
the typical teams like usual.
yeah, it has been wild. As a matter of fact, my son and I were having this conversation over the weekend, and WCA was starting to come up before I left, so that's not surprising. They've been good for a while.
Mhm.
I'm never surprised when Seymour has a good team, and you know, um, I don't know if they're still taping the thigh pads out in Woodland. The offensive and defensive linemen and linebackers, but that's never been an easy place to play. But I think high school football is good when leagues like the NVL are good. So it's good to see some change up on top of the NVL. But the old guard will be back. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, if we know anything with Ansonia kind of having an un-Ansonia year,
Yeah.
not being the typical Naugatuck, you know by next year it's going to be probably right back to the same again, right? Or something.
Yeah, there's going to be some work going on in weight rooms in the valley this winter.
I was about to say, I think the weightlifting in the winter could be very heavy with football players
It sure can.
for multiple
Absolutely.
sides. But coach, let's get back into your program because what you've been able to do now. How many years have you been with the program as a head coach?
So this is my fifth season.
Okay.
Um, as you know, I accepted the position at St. Paul
Hmm.
shortly before, actually right before COVID hit,
Yep.
and I coached through that COVID season and did the things that we were able to do,
Mhm.
and my son was actually graduating that year, and kind of out of the blue, I got a phone call from a common friend, somebody who had been working in the Hartford area and mentioned a potential conversation with a principal and an athletic director. It really moved quickly, and it immediately kind of felt right, and like maybe it was a time for a change. I had spent almost 20 years at St. Paul, and it's been a work in progress. But man, I love going to work every day.
Mhm.
I believe in the mission of CREC. And when you believe in what you're doing on a 9 to 5 basis, and then that is able to transfer over into after school and your passion for football.
Mhm.
It's been a work in progress, but it's been a labor of love for sure.
Now, talk to me if you can, coach, because like, people may not know what exactly like what schools are part of now. Because originally it was the crawl, and then when I was talking to John earlier, they renamed the conference to the Greater Hartford Conference, so GHC, which I did not know. So I appreciate John for filling me in on that before this. Because originally I said the crawl for a number of years because when I was doing innovation for basketball, Weaver was a part of the crawl at the time, and then they switched,
Yep.
like I said. What kind of schools are a part of the team that you're coaching? Is it multiple schools?
So my team, the CREC Colts, and it's one of our points of pride, right? Is that we represent all of CREC, right? So there are four CREC magnet schools, and as you can see, we're Class Double S. So
Hmm.
all four schools combined still only equate to one of the smaller schools in the state. But there's one in New Britain, there's one in Bloomfield, there's one in Windsor, and there's one up in Enfield. I happen to work at Computer Science High School up in Enfield. They're all magnet schools, and they have themes, and really CREC was born of the idea of equity in education. And so, for me, that's something easy to get behind. So we have kids from similar to St. Paul, right? We get kids from all different towns. I believe there's probably between 25 and 30 towns that make up, a student that can go to a CREC school.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. When I was coaching at St. Paul, I worked at Kennedy Middle School in Southington. And my first year in CREC, I'm walking through the cafeteria at Computer Science High School, and I saw a young lady from Southington that I had in an eighth grade science class a couple months prior. So there's kids from all over,
Mm.
and so that's exciting for us, and an opportunity to be involved with all different kinds of peoples from all different kinds of places and backgrounds and upbringings, and kind of bring them all together for a common purpose. Which obviously, if you're a part of CREC, that's your education, and then after school in the second classroom of the day, it's the football field with me and the guys.
Do you feel like because you went to St. Paul and you were there for so long to kind of obviously Jude Kelly had a major impact on you. I know when we talked last, that was a huge part of our conversation. Um, do you feel like because St. Paul, like the outreach, kids coming from everywhere and such, you experienced that, and then being a part of where you are now, not to say it prepared you, but do you think it made it easier for you in a way?
No, I think it did prepare me, right? I think it certainly, right, because when you have kids coming from all over, and it's not a neighborhood program per se, right? So, not being a neighborhood program, some of our kids are getting to know each other when they meet us, right? So, in some fashion, we're all getting to know each other at the same time, and that's certainly similar. Also the idea of, at St. Paul, education and faith being the priority over athletics. It's very similar at CREC, where it's education and equity, right? So again, believing in the mission, I think, is an important part of being excited about coming to work every day. So to finish, aside from the four CREC schools in the Greater Hartford Conference, we've got some of the other Hartford schools, Buckley, Hartford Public, Weaver, and we've also got some of the other magnets like HMTCA, University Magnet School, Classical Magnet, Achievement First.
Yeah.
So it's a great league. I actually coach in it in basketball. I don't know if you knew that, but I coach basketball for my school now as well.
Nice.
So all the sports besides football compete in the Greater Hartford Conference. Football being comprised of the four schools, we compete in the Pequot and go out and play neighborhood schools every week.
Now, how long have you been a part of the Pequot Conference?
So they joined. They got accepted right before I accepted the position.
Okay.
So
So
this is our fifth year in the conference as well.
so being a part of the conference, and obviously the Granby Cantons of the world have been very competitive. Ellington's always been up there. Rockville's always been up there. Capital Prep has had some good years of late because I remember they played against Career Academy. I think it was last year, 2 years ago, something like that.
Last year they made the
Last year.
playoffs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So being able to kind of see those, and I know I'm probably forgetting a couple others. Yeah, the Stafford Co-op as well. And when Mazzone was there, they were doing great things and such. Do you feel like going up against those teams and kind of seeing, because it's a different brand. The Valley, I always say the Valley kind of doesn't get mentioned for whatever reason because it's not the big schools. The Pequot, the excuse for many is, well, you can't even name half the towns, half the schools. Seriously.
And there's a couple schools that make up most teams, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand people with that line of thinking, but
Mhm.
I actually think that the NVL and the Pequot are almost identical conferences. They're very, very. I mean, not identical, but they're very, very similar. And
Yeah.
and I feel like in years past, I would love to see, right. So everybody's talking about the alliance and all this stuff. We're the last league out of the alliance. Hopefully, we do get into the alliance this year. I know our coaches are in favor of it, but ultimately it's up to the administrations and the ads at this point. But
Mhm.
um, you know, I would love to see. leagues get back to these challenges, right? I would love to see a Pequot NVL challenge, right? I think the two leagues
Wow.
match up very, very well.
Yeah.
Travel would be an issue, but it's 1 week a year,
Mm,
we can make it happen. But yeah, I think the leagues are very similar, and I think that you
mm.
know the middle of the pack, right, is getting better and better in the Pequot, and I think it's kind of raising everybody's level of play.
Well, I think, well, when G&H joined a couple years ago out of the Pequot, I could tell you they came first game against Ansonia. I know Coach Brockett was like, okay. I mean, obviously he had respect for Coach Scott and everything in the program, but like they came in and they weren't afraid. They gave
Yeah,
everybody a game for 2 quarters, and it's tough. Even with they're not having the best of seasons right now. I could tell you with people I've talked to within the Valley, it's like they could be 0 and 10, 0 and 9. They're going to give you everything you got. And I know
yeah.
the Pequot is just like that.
Yeah, it's proud football. You know what I mean? It's proud football, and again, you get in. They may be small communities, but they're still communities, right? So
Mhm.
I'll tell you, you go to Ellington on a Friday night, and their band's going, and the crowd's fired up, and the fire engine's there. Like you're there to play a football game.
Mhm.
It feels very similar to going down into the valley on a Friday night. It really does.
I hope we can do that challenge thing because I know that was done years ago. What, 2014, I think it was the last time, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it's a good model. One alliance game, one challenge game, 8 conference games. I think that's a good system.
Have a bragging. I mean, hey, what's more competitive than fantasy football with money on the line and doing something like that, right?
That's it. That's it.
So, looking at your team, Ed, I asked you, as far as what you guys ran, and obviously you don't have to tell the people out loud, but when you said it to me, my first thought was, wow, okay, because I didn't anticipate that. I anticipated a different style. Was that something that was kind of that happened first year, or did it kind of take time to build that?
So, so our offense, I think, has evolved over a couple years, and really, what happened is, so first of all, I have a tremendous assistant head coach by the name of Shabazz Gordon. He's been my right hand man since I've been there. It would be impossible for us to have the success we've had without him. He really has his thumb on the pulse of the kids, has a great relationship with the kids, and they respond to him greatly. So I think kind of shift in what we wanted to do happened when he went from being our defensive to offensive coordinator. And we went spread. And I've had experience with the spread both in my time at Southington and a portion of the time that we were at St. Paul.
Mhm.
But this is really Coach Gordon's offense, and he's done a great job. And I think, as we mentioned before, I think in the second half of the Ellington game, we kind of found our identity as a running football team, and we've got a quarterback that can get the ball down the field, and we've got some very capable wide receivers, that can do some things when they have the ball in their hand.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that we kind of took control of that Ellington game by running the football, and I think we all felt good about it after, both staff and players, and have kind of tried to keep moving in that direction.
Has Coach Kelly reached out to you at all with the success that you've had or
So
anything?
I haven't spoken to Coach real um, very recently.
Mhm.
Last time, right before the season started, he was on a trip with Coach Guy, and Coach Guy reached out to me, and we ended up playing phone tag. I
Mhm.
was away from my desk, and it didn't work out. But that was the last time he reached out to me. But during football season, even the best of friends, football coaches don't speak to each other much during football season. And Jude used to actually call it professional courtesy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, he's a dime a dozen, man. I mean, obviously his time with Southington and all the wins, and when he was at St. Paul, I mean, I'll never forget my one of my first games I broadcasted. I don't know if you were on the staff or not. It was against Holy Cross. They had Ligi on the team. That was his freshman year, so 2018,
Oh yeah,
2019.
that
Yeah.
was it.
So it was at Holy Cross before they started playing at the stadium. And they had a big, tall wide receiver, DeAndre Wallace, went to
Yeah,
Maria, basketball player too, could dunk.
I remember the exact day. I know it
Yeah.
was it was a lot warmer than we expected it to be
Yes, a
that
lot
day.
warmer.
He
And
made
your
some
guy,
great plays.
literally, you guys burnt an entire quarter by just running the same play. It
Yeah,
was a triple option.
that's it.
Be fourth and one every single time. You get it. And it was just like, slow, methodical. And I'm like, I'm looking at my broadcast partner like, they're gonna have the ball for the entire game.
If we could, we would. If we that might have been the year. There was a year we threw less than 20 passes. That might have been the year.
Yeah.
I believe Kevin Ashworth was
Yes.
our quarterback at the time. He was
Yes.
great at running the triple. He read it himself.
Yep.
And we had a dog of a fullback at the time, Connor Bogdansky. Yeah, that was a fun team.
Badansky was a big, big boy too.
Yeah, they both played
Raw.
lacrosse for me there as well.
Now, I want to ask you too, because the lacrosse factor. Now, you still coach at St. Paul, right?
No, actually, I went back home. I'm the head coach at Southington High School now
Yes,
for
you're
lacrosse.
right. Yes, I should have known that. So, the lacrosse side, is that something that the Hartford schools, is that something that's a focus? Do they have that?
No, I tell you, I wish, right?
Okay.
I believe, I'm a big grow the game guy,
Yes.
and I firmly believe that the next bubble, the next big growth of the game is going to be in the city.
Hmm.
Capital Prep has a team, but CREC doesn't.
Okay.
They kind of knocked around the idea a little bit, and I don't think there was necessarily the interest, but I also think there's not the knowledge to have the interest. I think
Yeah.
you watch a couple decent lacrosse games, I think it would be because it's especially the similarities to basketball. I mean, that's why I was able to coach basketball pretty seamlessly is that
Hmm.
the offensive and defensive concepts are quite literally the same as they are in basketball or basketball and lacrosse. So,
Hmm.
so no, there hasn't been serious talk of a team there. But at the same time, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at Southington right now in the lacrosse world.
I'm
So
just I'm just thinking out loud though, obviously down the road, because I know you're going to coach for many, many years, right?
I plan on it. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, right? Because obviously the game of lacrosse, I remember when I was a kid, and mind you, I was probably 13, 14. Lacrosse was just starting to become like somewhat of a thing because I had a couple kids on my soccer team before I went to high school that were playing lacrosse. And I remember thinking like, what the hell is lacrosse? Like it was a
Yeah.
known thing. But now as I've gotten older, the game has evolved. Now there's a professional league and there's all this involved. And like you said, there could be like a abundance of talent in Hartford that nobody knows with the game. And hopefully, like you said, growing the game, hopefully there can be an opportunity for that. And maybe at some point, if you want to not be a head coach, maybe you can oversee that. And now
Yeah.
it becomes a huge thing.
Well, I think a place to start, right, is with youth. So if
Mhm.
a pop-up lacrosse, event in Hartford where you get young kids out there, and also if we can make it a part of gym curriculum. You know what I mean? If you put a stick in a kid's hand at a young age and then maybe even if they don't play for a little while, but then all of a sudden they go to middle school and a team is offered, then maybe there would be some interest. So yeah, I do. I think that there's certainly room for growth, in the city with the game, and I think it'll benefit both the game, certainly benefit the game, but I think it'll benefit the people of the city as well.
Coach, before I let you go, and I really appreciate you coming on, what's it been like as far as like, because you've been like, again, you went through before COVID, I had you on during COVID, after COVID, you get the job here, you're doing an abundance of great stuff. What's kind of been, I guess, the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself through this process now with all the success you've had recently?
Well, again, that's an easy one, and to be honest, it's not really about myself, but it's an appreciation for Coach Kelly and everything he did for me throughout my career. Right now, the first time I had talked to you, I had just become a head football coach. I had been a head lacrosse coach, and now I'm a head basketball coach, and I love coaching. But being a head football coach is something different. I think it's something special. I think it's almost paying back the game, for what it's done for me in my life, and there's no doubt that it's abundance of blessings in my life have come up from me being a part of the game of football. But when Jude and I were at when Jude and I when Coach Kelly was at St. Paul and I was with him, um, he gave me a lot of leeway and kind of gave gave me the room to kind of find my own success as a football coach and kind of figure out who I was. as a football coach. And I think I took that for granted because now being kind of the old guy, right? I got a very young staff, and I'm not the cool guy anymore. You know what I mean? My assistant coaches are translating what I'm saying to my kids like I used to, for the kids at St. Paul with the boss. So it's a different dynamic, and so as I'm evolving in this role, and I'm evolving. I'm trying to get better every day.
Hmm.
But as I evolve in this role, every day I become more and more appreciative of him and kind of what he allowed me to do being his assistant coach for as long as I was.
I have to ask you too, because I never had the opportunity to ask Coach Kelly this. Whenever I did his games, he always had one sheet. I don't know if it was laminated or not. Were there play calls on that sheet?
Now, Jude hadn't called plays in a long time, right?
Okay.
So I mean, it was guaranteed. It was the schedule. It was a minute by minute schedule from the time the kids got out of school, after school, until the kids were released from the end of the game, and every single thing in between down to the minute. And he worked really hard on those schedules.
Mhm.
And we as the assistants had to work hard to keep us on those schedules. But I guarantee that that is what was on that was a labor of love, which was his game day schedule.
See, I always thought it was maybe something like a cheat sheet of like, all right, this is what we're going to run here if this happens or something like that.
Yeah, no, it'd been a while since Coach was calling plays, so I doubt it was that. And Jude Kelly doesn't need any cheat sheets either.
Did he ever call just one play during a game and you're like, wow, Coach Kelly said something about calling a play? All right, he's got to call it then.
Well, when I was an offensive coordinator, right,
Hmm.
my first coordinator position was an offensive coordinator for him.
Hmm.
And he taught me more in the first half of that year, than I had learned in previous years combined. So yeah, I mean, Coach, if it doesn't matter what position on the field, he
Hmm.
would be an incredible position coach at any position. So the same is true, when it comes to being a play caller,
Hmm.
right? He had nuggets and bits, and he kind of taught me that if then way of thinking, right? If they do this, then I do that, and
Hmm.
and and that whole process. So even though he wasn't a play caller, he always had input, and it's always well taken.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Best of luck with the rest of the season. Maybe I'll see you down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate having me on, and like I said, it's a great day to be a CREC Colt. Hopefully we get an opportunity to take care of business this week and keep this thing going, and maybe have a shot to be playing some postseason football, and hopefully we can talk to you then.
I'll wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands Connecticut Talent. Enjoy and find them all. Enjoy your day, everybody, and be well.